The cart rattled with her meager possessions: 2 blankets, a pillow she had found behind a furniture store, some canned food from the shelter, and a small teddy bear she had been saving for her baby. Maya hadn't always lived this way. Just 18 months ago, she had been studying nursing at Wayne State University, sharing an apartment with her best friend, dreaming of a career helping people. But everything changed when she met Marcus at a campus party. He was charming, attentive, and made her feel like she was the only person in the room. They fell in love quickly, or at least she thought it was love. When she discovered she was pregnant at the end of her sophomore year, Marcus disappeared within 48 hours. His phone number stopped working. His apartment was suddenly empty, and none of his friends would tell her where he had gone. Without financial support and unable to afford tuition while pregnant, Maya had to drop out of school. Her mother, struggling with addiction in Cleveland, couldn't help her. Her father had been gone since she was 6 years old. The few relatives she had were barely making ends meet themselves. Maya tried to work as long as she could, taking shifts at a diner, but morning sickness turned into complications that forced her to stop. When she couldn't pay rent, her landlord evicted her. The shelter system was overcrowded, and Maya found herself cycling between temporary beds, park benches, and eventually the streets. She had applied for assistance, but the bureaucracy moved slowly, and the waiting lists were long. Meanwhile, winter was coming and her baby would arrive in less than 6 weeks. On this particular November morning, Maya was making her way to Belle Isle, the island park in the Detroit River where she sometimes spent afternoons. It was one of the few places where she felt almost peaceful, where she could sit and talk to her unborn daughter about the better life they would somehow find. She had decided weeks ago that she would name her baby Hope, because hope was the only thing keeping Maya going. As she crossed the bridge onto the island, she noticed something unusual. Several black SUVs with tinted windows were parked near the nature center, and men in dark suits were walking around with earpieces and serious expressions. Maya had seen enough movies to recognize security details when she saw them. She wondered if some politician or celebrity was visiting the park. She pushed her cart toward her usual spot near the water when she heard shouting coming from the wooded area to her left. Male voices, angry and urgent. Maya's first instinct was to move away, to avoid whatever trouble was happening. She had learned on the streets that getting involved in other people's problems usually made your own situation worse. But then she heard something that made her stop cold, a roar that didn't belong in a Detroit city park. It was deep, primal, and unmistakably the sound of a large predator. Maya's heart raced as she heard screaming, genuine terror in someone's voice. Against every survival instinct she had developed over the past months, she found herself moving toward the sound. Pushing through the bare November trees, Maya emerged into a small clearing and froze at the sight before her. A mountain lion, massive and golden in the grey light, was circling a man who was tied to a tree. The man looked to be in his late 20s, dressed in expensive clothes that were now torn and dirty. His face was bruised, and there was dried blood on his temple. He was struggling against his restraints as the big cat moved closer, muscles rippling under its tawny coat. Maya's mind raced. Mountain lions weren't native to Michigan, at least not anymore. Someone must have brought this animal here deliberately. This wasn't a random attack, this was an execution. The man's eyes locked with Maya's and she saw the plea in them. He was going to die unless someone did something, and Maya was the only someone there. She looked down at her pregnant belly, thinking of hope, of the promise she had made to give her daughter a chance at life. If Maya died trying to save this stranger, Hope would die too. But if she walked away and let this man be killed, what kind of mother would she be? What kind of person? Maya had lost nearly everything, but she hadn't lost her humanity. She grabbed a fallen branch, thick and heavy, and stepped into the clearing. "Hey!" she shouted, her voice stronger than she felt. The mountain lion's head swiveled toward her, yellow eyes assessing this new element. Maya waved the branch and shouted again, making herself as large and loud as possible. The animal's attention shifted from the helpless man to this new threat. Maya's hands shook as the cat began moving toward her, low to the ground, ready to pounce. She thought of her baby, of everything she would never get to experience, and swung the branch with all her strength as the mountain lion lunged. The impact jarred her arms, but the cat veered away, snarling. Maya screamed and swung again and again, advancing rather than retreating. The predator, confused by this aggressive response from what should have been easy prey, backed up several steps. In that moment, men in tactical gear burst into the clearing from 3 directions, weapons drawn. One of them fired a tranquilizer dart that struck the mountain lion in the shoulder. The big cat roared, stumbled, and within seconds collapsed to the ground. Maya dropped her branch and fell to her knees, adrenaline draining from her body so quickly she thought she might pass out. Strong hands caught her before she hit the ground. "Mom, are you all right? Did it hurt you?" a deep voice asked. Maya shook her head, unable to speak, her whole body trembling. "The baby," she finally managed to whisper. "Please, my baby." Within minutes, the clearing filled with people. Paramedics checked Maya and confirmed the baby seemed fine, her heartbeat strong despite the stress. Other medics were untying the man from the tree, treating his injuries, wrapping him in thermal blankets. Maya watched from where she sat against a tree, still trying to process what had just happened. A distinguished older black man in an expensive overcoat approached her, his expression a mixture of relief and something else Maya couldn't quite identify. Gratitude, maybe, or disbelief. "Miss," he said, kneeling down despite his formal attire, "I'm William Thornton. That man you just saved is my son, David. I don't know how to thank you for what you did." Maya looked past him to where David was being loaded onto a stretcher. Their eyes met again across the clearing, and he raised one hand in acknowledgement before the paramedics carried him toward the vehicles. "I didn't really think about it," Maya said honestly. "He needed help." William Thornton studied her face, then looked at her worn clothes, her pregnant belly, the shopping cart visible through the trees with all her worldly possessions. "Where do you live?" he asked gently. Maya felt her cheeks burn with shame. "Around," she said quietly. "I'm between places right now." William Thornton stood up, made a decision that Maya could see forming in his eyes. "You're coming with us," he said firmly. "I'm taking you to the hospital to make sure you and your baby are truly okay, and then you're coming to my home. I won't hear any arguments." Maya started to protest, to say she didn't need charity, but the words died in her throat. She was exhausted, cold, hungry, and terrified for her baby. Pride was a luxury she could no longer afford. "Okay," she whispered. "Thank you." As the paramedics helped her to her feet and guided her toward an ambulance, Maya looked back at the clearing where the tranquilized mountain lion lay surrounded by wildlife officials. Nothing about this day made sense. Who had kidnapped David Thornton? Why had they tied him up with a trained predator? And why had Maya, of all people, been the one to stumble upon this scene? She climbed into the ambulance, one hand protectively on her belly, and wondered if maybe hope was a more powerful force than she had realized. The hospital confirmed what the paramedics had suspected. Both Maya and her baby were healthy, remarkably so given the circumstances. As Maya sat in the private room that William Thornton had arranged for her, wearing a clean hospital gown and having eaten her first hot meal in 3 days, she felt like she was living in someone else's life. A nurse had helped her shower, and Maya had cried watching the dirt and grime of street life wash down the drain. When William returned to her room, he wasn't alone. David Thornton walked beside him, moving stiffly from his injuries, but insisting on being there. His head was bandaged, and there were stitches above his left eyebrow, but his eyes were clear and focused entirely on Maya. "I needed to see you," David said, sitting carefully in the chair beside her bed. "I needed to look you in the eye and thank you for saving my life. What you did was beyond brave, it was extraordinary." Maya felt uncomfortable with the praise. "Anyone would have done the same thing," she said. David shook his head firmly. "No, they wouldn't have. Especially not someone who was pregnant and had every reason to protect themselves first. You risked everything for a complete stranger." William cleared his throat. "The police are investigating what happened. David was taken from his car 3 days ago by men working for a business rival. They were sending a message to our family. The mountain lion was purchased illegally and trained specifically for this purpose. Maya felt sick thinking about how close David had come to death, how close she had come to witnessing something she could never unsee. "I'm just glad I was there," she said quietly. David leaned forward, wincing slightly from his bruised ribs. "Maya, my father told me about your situation, where you've been living. I want to help you if you'll let me." Maya stiffened. "I don't need money," she said, her pride flaring despite everything. "I'm going to figure things out." William spoke gently but firmly. "Maya, you saved my son's life. You're about to have a baby in a few weeks and you have nowhere safe to live. Please, let us help you. Not as charity, but because you deserve better than what life has given you lately." David nodded. "We have a guest house on our property in Bloomfield Hills. It's empty, fully furnished, completely private. You could live there, at least until you get back on your feet. And I could use an assistant. My current one quit last month because of the hours, and I haven't found a replacement. You said you were studying nursing before everything happened. That means you're smart, organized, and good under pressure. You certainly proved that today." Maya looked between father and son, searching for any hint of pity or condescension in their faces. She found only sincerity. "I don't know anything about being an assistant," she admitted. David smiled. "I'll teach you. It's mostly scheduling, answering calls, organizing meetings, keeping me on track. You'll learn quickly. And it comes with a salary, health insurance, and you'd be helping me out genuinely. I need someone I can trust, and you've already proven you're trustworthy." Maya felt tears burning in her eyes. "Why are you doing this, really?" William pulled up another chair and sat down. "Because kindness should be repaid with kindness. Because you deserve a chance. And because I've been where you are, believe it or not." He gestured to his expensive suit. "This didn't come from family money. I grew up in a trailer park in Flint. My mother cleaned houses, and my father worked in the factories until his lungs gave out. I built my company from nothing, and I remember every person who gave me a hand up along the way. Now it's my turn to be that person for someone else." Maya wiped her eyes, looking down at her belly where hope was moving, as if she could sense her mother's emotional state. "Okay," Maya said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Yes, thank you. I'll work hard, I promise. I'll earn everything you're giving me." David reached out and gently squeezed her hand. "I know you will. We'll get you settled in the guest house tomorrow. Take tonight to rest here in the hospital. Let the doctors make absolutely sure you and the baby are fine. Then we'll start this new chapter." The next morning, Maya rode in the back of a town car for the first time in her life, watching the Detroit cityscape give way to the manicured suburbs of Bloomfield Hills. When they turned onto the Thornton property, she gasped. The main house was a modern masterpiece of glass and stone, situated on what looked like several acres of pristine grounds. The guest house, set back among old oak trees, was larger than any apartment Maya had ever lived in. It had 2 bedrooms, a full kitchen, a living room with a fireplace, and windows that flooded every room with natural light. "This is too much," Maya said as David showed her around. "It's perfect," David corrected her, "and it's yours for as long as you need it. Come on, I'll show you the main house and introduce you to the household staff. Don't be overwhelmed. Everyone is friendly, and they all know you're the woman who saved my life." Over the next 2 weeks, Maya settled into a routine that felt surreal in its normalcy. She woke up in a comfortable bed, ate breakfast in her own kitchen, and walked the short path to the main house where she worked alongside David. He was patient as he taught her his systems, showing her how to manage his calendar, screen his calls, prepare briefings for his meetings. Maya discovered she had a natural aptitude for organization and detail work. But not everyone at Thornton Industries was happy about Maya's presence. Richard Cooper, William Thornton's business partner, had a son named Brad who worked as a junior executive. Brad was 29, entitled, and had expected to move into David's assistant role himself, as a stepping stone to higher position. When he learned that a homeless pregnant woman had been given the job instead, his resentment was immediate and vocal. He started spreading rumors among the staff that Maya was taking advantage of the Thorntons, that she had probably orchestrated the whole rescue somehow, that she was a con artist, playing on William's emotions. Maya heard the whispers, but tried to ignore them, focusing on her work and preparing for Hope's arrival. David had helped her set up the second bedroom as a nursery, and Maya spent her evenings painting it a soft yellow, assembling the crib that William had insisted on buying, folding tiny clothes that the household staff had donated. She felt Hope growing stronger every day, movements becoming kicks and rolls that made Maya laugh and sometimes cry with overwhelming gratitude for this second chance. One afternoon in early December, Maya was alone in David's office at the main house organizing files when Brad walked in. "Where's David?" he demanded, not bothering with pleasantries. "He's in a meeting downtown," Maya replied professionally. "I can take a message or schedule time for you tomorrow." Brad laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Schedule time. Listen to you playing secretary. You know everyone here knows what you really are, right? You're a homeless woman who got lucky. One good deed doesn't change the fact that you're nobody." Maya felt her face grow hot, but she kept her voice steady. "Is there something work-related you need, Brad? If not, I have things to finish." Brad stepped closer, leaning against the desk in a way that made Maya uncomfortable. "I need you to understand something. You don't belong here. You're an embarrassment to this company. My father agrees with me, even if David and William are too soft-hearted to see it. One mistake, one slip-up, and you're gone, back to pushing that shopping cart around." Before Maya could respond, David's voice cut through the tension like ice. "Get away from her!" Brad spun around, startled. David stood in the doorway, and Maya had never seen him look so angry. His usual warm expression was gone, replaced by cold fury. "I said get away from her, Brad, now." Brad straightened up, trying to recover his composure. "I was just introducing myself to your new assistant." "No harm done." David walked into the room, positioning himself between Brad and Maya. "I heard what you said. Every word. You have about 10 seconds to leave this office before I call security." Brad's face reddened. "You're choosing a homeless girl over your father's business partner's son. Over me. I've worked here for 4 years. David's voice was quiet but hard as steel. "You've coasted here for 4 years on your father's name. Maya has worked harder in 2 weeks than you have in 4 years, and if you ever speak to her like that again, if you even look at her wrong, I will personally ensure that your career in this industry is over. Am I clear?" Brad opened his mouth, closed it, then stormed out of the office without another word. Maya realized she was shaking. David turned to her, his expression softening immediately. "Are you okay? Did he touch you?" She shook her head. "No, he just said some things. I'm fine." David pulled up a chair and sat down facing her. "Maya, I'm sorry. I should have warned you that there would be people like Brad here. But you need to know something. You belong here just as much as anyone else. More than people like him, actually, because you earned your place. You saved my life, yes, but you're also excellent at this job. You're organized, intelligent, and you care about doing things right. Don't let anyone make you feel less than that." Before we move on, I want to ask you something important. If this story is resonating with you, if Maya's journey is touching your heart, please consider subscribing to our channel. We share stories like this because we believe in the power of hope, redemption, and second chances. These are stories about real human struggles and triumphs, about people who refuse to give up even when life has knocked them down. By subscribing, you become part of a community that celebrates these moments of courage and transformation. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Have you ever had to choose between staying safe and helping someone in danger? What would you have done in Maya's position? Share your thoughts below because your perspective matters, and your story might inspire someone else who's going through their own struggle right now. Maya's words stuck with her through the following weeks, as December turned colder and her due date approached. The incident with Brad had shaken her, not because of his cruelty, but because it reminded her how fragile her new life still felt. She had gone from sleeping under bridges to living in luxury, from wondering where her next meal would come from to having health insurance and a steady income. Sometimes she woke up in the middle of the night, convinced it was all a dream, that she would open her eyes and find herself back on the streets with nothing but her shopping cart and her fears. But David's faith in her never wavered. As Christmas approached, he invited her to join the Thornton family for their holiday celebration. Maya hesitated, not wanting to intrude on family time, but William personally came to the guest house to insist. "You're part of this family now," he said simply. "We want you there." On Christmas Eve, Maya sat in the Thorntons' living room, watching the fire crackle, feeling hope doing somersaults in her belly. David sat beside her on the couch, and they talked for hours about everything and nothing. He told her about his childhood, about the pressure of being William Thornton's son, about his dreams of expanding the family business into sustainable technologies. Maya shared stories about her own childhood in Cleveland, about her mother's struggles, about the nursing career she still dreamed of returning to someday. "You will," David said with certainty. "Once Hope is old enough, we'll figure out how to get you back to school. I'll make sure of it." Maya looked at him, this man who had every reason to see her as just a charity case, but instead treated her as an equal, as a friend. "Why do you believe in me so much?" she asked softly. David was quiet for a moment, staring into the fire. "Because you saw me tied to that tree facing death, and you didn't calculate the odds or weigh the risks rationally. You just acted because it was the right thing to do. That tells me everything I need to know about who you are. And honestly, Maya, spending time with you has reminded me what's important. Before the kidnapping, I was so caught up in business deals and quarterly reports that I'd forgotten why we do any of this. You brought me back to what matters." The moment hung between them, charged with something Maya was afraid to name. David seemed to feel it too because he cleared his throat and changed the subject, asking about her plans for the nursery. But something had shifted and they both knew it. On New Year's Eve, Maya went into labor. It was 3 weeks early and she was terrified. David drove her to the hospital himself, staying with her through every contraction, holding her hand when the pain became overwhelming. "You're doing amazing," he kept saying. "You're the strongest person I know, Maya. You've got this." 15 hours later, Hope entered the world screaming with healthy lungs and a full head of dark curls. Maya held her daughter for the first time and sobbed with relief and joy and exhaustion. When the nurses finally convinced her to rest, she looked up to see David still there, looking at Hope through the nursery window with wonder on his face. Over the next 6 weeks, Maya discovered that motherhood was simultaneously the hardest and most rewarding thing she had ever done. Hope was a good baby, but she still needed to eat every few hours, and Maya existed in a fog of sleeplessness. David was incredibly understanding, telling her to take all the time she needed before coming back to work. William hired a part-time nanny to help during the day so Maya could rest. When Maya finally returned to the office in mid-February, she found that her role had expanded. David had been serious about trusting her with more responsibility, and she was now attending meetings, contributing ideas, learning about the business in ways that went far beyond a typical assistant position. She discovered she had good instincts for strategy and people management. Brad continued to glare at her in the hallways, but he kept his distance after David's warning. Other employees, seeing how much David and William valued Maya, began to accept her as a legitimate part of the team. One evening in early March, David asked Maya to stay late to help prepare for a major presentation. They ordered takeout and worked side by side in his office, the rest of the building quiet around them. As midnight approached, they took a break and walked out onto the balcony that overlooked the frozen lake behind the property. The moon was full and bright, turning the ice silver. "I need to tell you something," David said, his breath forming clouds in the cold air. Maya turned to look at him, her heart suddenly racing. "I've been trying not to say this because I didn't want to make things complicated or uncomfortable, but I can't keep pretending anymore. I'm in love with you, Maya. I think I started falling that day in the park when you risked everything to save me, but it's grown into so much more than gratitude. You're brilliant and brave and kind, and being around you makes me want to be a better person." Maya felt tears freezing on her cheeks. "David, I'm a single mother with no education and a past living on the streets. You're a billionaire's son. People already talk about me like I'm some kind of opportunist. If we—" David stepped closer, taking her hands in his. "I don't care what people say. I've never cared less about anything in my life. Yes, we come from different worlds, but that doesn't matter. What matters is how I feel when I'm with you, how you make me laugh, how you challenge me to think differently. What matters is that Hope lights up when she sees me, and I can't imagine my life without either of you in it anymore." Maya searched his face, looking for any sign of doubt or hesitation. She found none. "I love you too," she whispered. "I've been so scared to admit it because I thought I was being foolish, that you could never really want someone like me." David smiled, that warm, genuine smile that had become Maya's favorite thing. "Someone like you? You mean someone courageous enough to fight a mountain lion while pregnant? Someone smart enough to master a new job in weeks? Someone who turned her whole life around through sheer determination? Maya, you're extraordinary. I'm the lucky one here." He leaned down and kissed her gently, and Maya felt something break open inside her chest. All the fear and shame and doubt she had been carrying for so long began to dissolve, replaced by something she had almost stopped believing in: hope. Not just hope for survival or making it through another day, but hope for genuine happiness, for love, for a future that looked nothing like her past. They stood on that balcony for a long time, holding each other under the winter moon, two people from different worlds who had found each other in the most unlikely circumstances. Maya thought about the moment she had heard David screaming in those woods, the split-second decision to run toward danger instead of away from it. That choice had changed everything. It had given her back her life, her dignity, her dreams, and now it had given her love. 3 months later, David proposed to Maya in the guest house nursery while Hope slept in her crib. It was simple and perfect, just the three of them in the soft glow of the nightlight. Maya said yes, without hesitation. They were married in June, in the Thorntons' garden, with Hope serving as the youngest flower girl in Michigan history. William walked Maya down the aisle, and when he placed her hand in David's, he whispered, "Welcome to the family, daughter." Maya's journey from homeless and desperate to loved and secure hadn't been easy or straightforward. There were still hard days, moments when the trauma of those months on the street came back to haunt her. But she had David beside her, and hope in her arms, and a future stretching out before her full of possibility. She had learned that one moment of courage could change everything, that kindness could come from unexpected places, and that no matter how dark things got, hope was always worth holding on to. She had saved David's life that day in Belle Isle, but in truth, they had saved each other. Thank you so much for watching Maya and David's story. If it touched your heart, please subscribe to our channel and join our community of people who believe in second chances and the power of human kindness. We share these stories because they remind us that transformation is possible, that love can bloom in the most unexpected places, and that courage comes in many forms. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Have you ever experienced a moment where everything changed because of one decision? What did this story teach you about hope, courage, or taking chances on people? Share your thoughts below, and if you have your own story of transformation or unexpected kindness, please tell us about it. Your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. What did you learn from Maya's journey? Let's talk about it in the comments, and don't forget to like this video if it moved you. Thank you for being part of this community, and remember, it's never too late for a new beginning.